very big welcome to you ladies, and welcome to the fifth of the series of 6 Magic of Color work classes. Just delightful to actually be back with you after a 2-week break this time, and looking forward to sharing lots more of the magical insights of color with you. So to kick off this particular session, what I'm actually going to do is to just do a review of the sample 3-color readings that I gave you for your homework the last time that we actually connected with the previous session. And it's just really so that you get a little bit of practice running through this and how to work with the 3 bottles and how to put the story together, how different ways that you can actually look at the arrangements of the bottles and the meanings in the bottles and how you can flow with it, because there's a huge amount of information, as mentioned previously, in just 3 bottles. Further on in today's session, then I will actually introduce the 9-bottle reading, which we'll do a review on next week in our final class. So the first sample reading that I gave you with the homework, if we read the bottles from left to right, we would be reading them as what is the key issue that they are dealing with. So the violet color would represent the key issue that somebody is dealing with at this moment, if this was what they chose. The green would be the pathway, or what is going to support them in resolving that issue. And the orange represents then the potential outcome of the process that they are undergoing. So let's just start with a linear sequence and go, okay, with violet. And we have actually looked at this color. So with violet, what would be the key issue that this individual might be dealing with? How would you start off with this person or approach them in respect of identifying the main attributes of the violet that they could be dealing with at the moment? What would that tell you if they put violet in there as the key issue choice? So it's over to you guys. So it's just tune into that and say, okay, violet is the key issue. What might the kind of things be that they are dealing with? Inner issues, deep thoughts. Yes, very internalized. So yes, exactly that. So I would say to them, and you put it into question form, is that, have you been feeling very withdrawn? This color choice would indicate that there is a withdrawal from the external world to an extent. There is a need for you to be in your own inner space. You're probably doing a lot of thinking at the moment. Are you finding that you're doing a lot of thinking? You may be dealing with some confusion. What else would you actually home in that bottle? Remember how many sort of attributes we find associated with each of the colors, and it's really just incredible. So what else might you explore with them? So yes, that's internalized issues, withdrawal. If we withdraw to a huge extent or to a great degree, what would that also lead to in terms of the emotional, psychological impact of that? No thoughts? I would actually, ask the individual as well whether they've been feeling somewhat depressed, perhaps depressed and antisocial. I would also want to question whether or not they have been through some kind of traumatic experience or some kind of loss that they may be grieving. So violet is a color that's associated with grief and transformation. So that's one of the things that I would ask them. You know, have you been through a situation where you've lost something? It could be a person, it could be a life circumstance, it could be, yeah, in need of support. Yes, very much so. It could have been, yeah, so this could have been the loss of a job, the loss of income, the loss of a person, the loss of a pet, the loss of something material, the loss of a lifestyle, if there are health issues. It really depends, but there's some kind of loss, and there is a grieving process going on which indicates the potential for transformation. It is something that is pushing them to change something in their life. It's going to stimulate change in their life. And that's evident in the selection of bottles because green indicates change and the need for changes in direction, changes in space, changes in ways of thinking. So they could be very stuck in their own little cocoon and their own little processes at the moment. So loss and grief are key things. From a perspective of physical manifestation, they could be dealing with, and I would explore whether they've been experiencing things like headaches, insomnia, lack of sleep, um, tension in the neck and shoulders, because the violet involves all of the head area, so you could be finding tension, headaches. Vision problems, you may actually find vision problems, as that sort of also overlaps and comes into the influence from the crown chakra. And remember as well that one of the key phrases that goes with violet is this not wanting to be here. So I would often say to somebody, have you been through something really difficult circumstances where you don't really want to be here, where you're just thinking this is too hard and you just want to be out? Okay, so there's lots of things that you can explore with them. You know, it's like their life is out of balance because violet also represents balance of their whole life. It's knowing when to be creative, when to play. There could also be a lack of creativity, too much going on in their head. They need to get out of their head. Feeling physical exhaustion because all of their energy is in their head. There's not enough to fuel the physical activity. All of those things, you know, start looking deeper into it. Now remember as well what I said to you is if you get stuck with this bottle and you're not sure how to read it, have a look at this third one, because if this is the potential outcome, that means that there's an energy in this bottle that they are looking for, that they want, because that's what they've chosen as the outcome. So that's where they want to go to. So it means that this is missing. And what is orange in its positive? Orange represents support, it represents emotional healing, it represents creativity, it represents joy, happiness, fun in life, and so many of those things. And those are all things that are missing in their life at the moment. So you can almost then read these three bottles in reverse by looking at what they want and what is missing. Okay. So by going through some sort of trauma and grief and loss, and what they're missing is the joy, the wholeness, the creativity, the upliftment, the energy. Orange is also an energy bottle, so they're lacking in energy because they don't have that. So are you guys okay with that? You can see how the flow of the three bottles works. Ashwit. Do the choice have to use the orange color? That's, yeah, no, not necessarily. This is where your intuition would come in terms of the individual that you were working with. Is if those are the three bottles that they have chosen, you could do one of two things. You could either give them the green bottle to work with, which helps them to open up their space, um, and helps to see things from a different perspective and will help to expand their heart, so it brings the energy down from the crown down through the heart and into the physical body, so it helps to open up the heart energy. create space. They're creating space with green. I'm giving you all the answers here. Um, so you could actually give them the green to work with, which is a very gentle way of doing that, but depending on what they have been through. So if they have been through a very severe trauma that has actually created the grief and the violet processes, they may be better off working first with the orange, because orange is also a color that's associated with putting the pieces back together again, and it's ideal when there's been an emotional shock or trauma. So you may find that you want to actually give them, if I was facing somebody with these, I would almost be tempted to give them the orange to work with first and then suggest the green, so that they can put the emotional body back together, help to access the emotional color or the emotional body, and then to open up the central space of the heart to balance them both. So it depends on the individual, and that's where this does become a very, very intuitive process. So it's not a case of saying you must do this and there's, if this, then that. Because you're going to feel into it, and you will know, given the circumstances, what is right. So is there anything, are you quite okay with that? How's that? That's like a quick review of those 3 bottles. Are you feeling okay with that? You feeling comfortable with that? There's obviously a lot more information because you literally can sit for half an hour with them. You're okay with it, Ashwit, that's great. Cherry, you okay with it? Yep, cool. Let's have a look then at the second sample. Totally, totally different colors. We've got bright yellow, so we've got key issue, bright yellow. The path to resolving it, and then the outcome. So, over to you, ladies. How would you look at those? How might you read those 3 bottles? If you had somebody sitting in front of you, how would you explore that? Lots of happiness. That's what they're looking for. Lost. Well, I would say lost happiness. Lost happiness. It's gone. You know. So yeah, I would explore that with them. They're probably feeling somewhat confused. It's like, who am I? Who am I? Where am I? All sorts of identity issues. Okay, I see Cherry's typing there. Clarity, yes. Know their issues and needing direction. Yes, absolutely. Total confusion. Could be too many choices and they're not in touch with what it is that they really need. Because yellow, when it's an issue, means that the individual has probably gone through their life or is at this moment in time relying too much on other people to set that direction for them, because they've lost touch with what it is within them that needs to actually um, fuel and direct their movements and their course through life. They've always been determined by what other people say, do, think about them. So it's somebody who is also very, very sensitive. Now, what I would say here, if you look at the yellow in the first one, which is an issue, and then you look at the red, which is what they want, what they are looking for is they are looking for energy. So it's quite likely that what they don't have at the moment is the motivation and the energy to fuel their movement and their choices. So they're probably very stuck. So the opposite of red and movement and motivation is being stuck. Yes, and grounding. Yeah. So, but that's what they don't have. So that's what they are looking for. So grounding is also about being anchored in their body. It's about being down to earth. It's about having physical energy. So and passion and motivation and excitement in their life. And so there's a lack of happiness, a lack of excitement, could be a lack of clarity, and that lack of clarity and the confusion means that they're stuck because they just don't know which direction to move in. You know, which way do I go? Unless somebody tells them, they just don't know what to do. Also, bear in mind that the issues in yellow, what would some of the other issues in yellow be that you might explore with them? There's an extreme sensitivity in yellow. It's the solar plexus area. It's a very much a strong sensitivity in the solar plexus. There's a huge nerve plexus there. So people in yellow, or with yellow as an issue, tend to react very personally and strongly to any kind of perceived criticism. Social issues, yeah. So it's their ability to interact with other people. And to interact with other people from a perspective of a very strong inner identity. So where yellow is an issue, you have got somebody who is questioning their own identity. And where you've got somebody who's not sure of all of that, it means that they're exceptionally sensitive to anything that may be lobbied in their direction that could be perceived or construed as criticism. Because where do we feel it? If somebody criticizes us, we say we feel as if we've been kicked in the stomach. You know, or you feel it in the solar plexus, the stomach area. So they could also be experiencing the kind of physical things that you would look for as an extreme sensitivity in the diaphragm area, solar plexus area. You can feel it physically when that is actually playing up. Skin issues. Remember that yellow is actually associated with the skin. So you could find somebody who suffers a lot of stress and anxiety. So they could find themselves in a life situation at the moment where they're experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety. And that ultimately drains us of energy because it actually overloads the adrenal glands, but it also overtoxes the system, or toxifies, if you like, the system, our system, with poisonous neuropeptides, which the body has to get rid of. And because the kidneys and everything else is overloaded with the stress, the skin becomes the decontamination or detoxifying organ. So things are let out through the skin. So what you find are things like eczema, hives, anything that is actually manifest through the skin would be reflected through the yellow. Things like psoriasis. Psoriasis is very much a yellow solar plexus linked issue. Any comments on that? Are you quite okay with that? So it's a nice review of some of the colors that we've actually been through already. So if turquoise is actually chosen as the pathway to help to resolve those issues, what might turquoise bring in terms of gifts to help to resolve that then? You say what you've chosen is this is the way forward. So what kind of things would you actually discuss with them with the turquoise selection of bottle there? The turquoise bottle selection. So what is needed? Yes, that's a good one. So what is needed to help them to overcome is for them to strengthen their ability to communicate their needs so that they don't become reliant on other people telling them what they need. They become more expressive, exactly, of what their own needs are. So turquoise would help them to strengthen that communication ability. What else would turquoise do for them as a gift? Come on, you ladies are doing great. Even if you just catch onto one word, you know, that sort of belongs with that, you then, yeah, okay, I've got it, there's a word, and then you start expanding on it, and it becomes an unfolding, a natural unfolding of what you hold within you. Support their need to change. Okay, yes, turquoise actually does. And how does it do that? Because the yellow person very often, because of this sensitivity, tends to put up walls or barriers around their real self. So they live life from behind a turquoise wall and they put on masks in order to be able to interact with the outside world. So they put on a mask so that they can be who they think other people want or need them to be. So turquoise actually represents the taking off of the masks so that they can discover who they really are. So in this context, you can see how wonderful it is. We talk about those issues of identity with yellow. And in essence, the yellow person can be a bit chameleon-like because they can adapt to different social circumstances depending on the people that are there. But each one of those adaptations is a mask that is put on out of fear of them not being accepted by being their real self. So turquoise is the pathway, the gift that helps them to remove those masks, to begin to communicate from their heart, to begin to communicate and find out who they really are. So it begins to initiate that change. See how it works together? Yeah, lovely. And as that happens, the gift that it brings, when they start finding that it's okay to be themselves, it actually helps to build confidence. And of course, one of the things that's lacking if you've got yellow as an issue is confidence. So that's what turquoise actually brings them, that ability to communicate, trust in themselves. Yes, absolutely. And the trust is in the blue element that's in that turquoise bottle. So yes, absolutely. See, you're doing great. What else would you pick up then with the turquoise? Understanding the mechanism and the way that this works so beautifully with the yellow in this particular case. And each combination of colors will give you a totally different story, a different understanding. So what else might you find in the turquoise as a gift? You ladies are doing brilliant. Finding their true path, career, or absolutely, because once you get in touch with who you really are, you can look at changing paths. You could look at, you've then got the motivation and the energy to move in a different direction, in a way that is more true to themselves. High spirit. Oh, that's a lovely expression, Ashwat. High spirit, high view. Yes, absolutely. So that's what turquoise does. Turquoise breaks down the walls. And in fact, turquoise is a color that's associated with this upgrade in consciousness, this particular time of the grand cycle changes and transition that we are in. Turquoise is a color that characterizes our movement into the new cycle. So it's time to drop all of those masks of everything that we thought we were so that we can actually become those high consciousness beings that we are deep in our core, that we really are. So we're dropping all of those false paradigms and false belief systems. So that's what turquoise does. And that as we do that, yeah, we find the energy to re-engage with life in a different way. So how does that feel for you now, having gone through the second one? And obviously that's just very brief. Does that feel a little bit easier for you? I must say, I had an email. That's very good. That's fabulous, Ashwit. You got that one. Terry, you okay with it too? I had an email this week from one of the ladies who did a course earlier on in the year. That's great. And she just said she's been doing so many readings and working with people with the healing as well. The things that she's been picking up about the individuals through doing these readings is just amazing. I think she's astounded herself with the allowance of the unfolding and of the information that she's actually finding. So it just is beautiful. Right, so we've got a few more colors to go through. And we've done green, so I'm actually going to go over there, go over that. So let's do the remaining colors that we actually haven't had an opportunity to explore yet. And then I'm going to take you through a 9-bottle reading and how you can really expand on the information through doing the 9-bottle reading. Okay, so what I'd like you ladies to do, if you're comfortable, is to just make sure that you're sitting nice and comfortably and relax your shoulders. Before you close your eyes, don't you just love that image that's on this week's lesson, that butterfly with all of those beautiful iridescent colors? I just think that is because the butterfly is about transformation, and this is by the time we get to class 5, we've actually been doing a whole lot of personal transformation, possibly sometimes without even realizing it. You know, and that is, it just is such an uplifting, powerful, beautiful, I find it very energizing image. It's almost like otherworldly. It's not just a butterfly. You know, there's something really, really symbolic about that with the jewel-like colors. Anyway, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, ladies, so make sure you're comfortable. Close your eyes and just take a moment or two to concentrate on your breathing. As you breathe in and out, peacefully, rhythmically, in a natural flow. Just breathe. Watch your breath as you draw it in through your nostrils into your body, into your lungs. And you breathe out. And watch all of the waste, carbon dioxide, and everything else that you don't need just flowing out on your breath. And your body calms and your mind calms as it relaxes. And you allow your consciousness to drop into your body. That as you do that, your consciousness is part of and connected to the greater cosmos. So you are essentially bringing the expansiveness of the universe itself into the cells in your body. Just feel that for a moment. And as you allow that universal consciousness to flow in and through and between your cells, you feel your being expanding. And you realize with a deep knowingness that you have a connection with the frequencies of light and color that is way, way beyond the limitations of the human mind and of the restricted physical form, that your connection is universal. Allow yourself to feel the truth and the knowingness of that. As you look around your body with this expanded consciousness and you see all of the colors and frequencies of the rainbow in the communications between your cells, in the movement of electrical impulses down your spine into your muscles, in all of the processes taking place in your body. You see the colors on your breath as you breathe in that vitality into your beings. It activates and energizes your cosmic soul. Let the colors touch you. Let them trigger within you the wealth of knowledge that pours through your physical being out into the world. And deep breath in. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes and allow yourself to focus on the bottle, the energies of the color or the light on your screen. Breathe it in. Let that frequency be imparted to you through your optic nerves as you gaze upon it. And what are the first associations that emerge for you with this color? Pure, yes, purity. Transparency, clear, eternal, yes. What else might you connect with in there? So you've both actually picked sort of the wonderful sort of positive elements. So you have a very positive connection with this color, with this. It's not called clear in the oils of transformation range. It's actually referred to as pearl, even though it is a transparent color or a transparent frequency, essence, energy. Divine. Yes, beautiful. That's what we think of when we think of the divine light, or that divine, the quality of divine energy is that absolute clarity, uh, that clearness, that transparency of being. So when we are in our divine nature, ultimately that's how we experience life and how we are experienced. We just become this transparent being that nothing sticks to. Everything is reflected off. So in its really powerful positive expression, it is somebody who has a very sensitive nature to the frequencies, to the quintessence. Quintessence is a beautiful word that I like with this color, with the quintessence of their divine self, and is well connected with the divine. So it's also somebody who is very clearly guided because of that transparency. Okay. And the one thing that transparency means, and that's associated with this frequency, if somebody chooses it, is there are no filters. Okay. So there's no heavy or uh, what's the word? Uh, Inculcated paradigms or belief systems that form really dark or deep filters. This is like a clear connection to divine guidance. Okay, so there are no filters with this. Now, on the positive side, that means that the guidance is very strong, or can be very strong, very connected to higher purpose. Somebody who is, because of that, the individual would tend to be clear, positive, and enthusiastic. There's an inner strength while being loving and gentle. People would experience an individual like this. Highly sensitive, yes. And in fact, not just higher realms, somebody who is highly sensitive to um, other dimensional realms. So you might find somebody who actually sees and experiences the little people. We tend to think of it all as mythology, but it's somebody who also does experience the other dimensional energies because they themselves, the filters, have been removed from their own eyes. So it is very positive and very powerful and very cleansing. And very liberating in its own way with this particular pearl bottle. Now, bearing in mind, if those are all of the positive qualities, what might some of the challenges be, or some of the negative qualities that might manifest if somebody had to choose this as an issue bottle? So what might it be if this was an issue? Negative or argumentative? Could actually be very negative. Pessimistic rather than optimistic, so you're looking at the opposite. Yeah. Not recognizing, yes, not recognizing the spirit world, so they would feel disconnected. Always trying to protect themselves. Yes, all of those. Very good. Well done, ladies. Because if you think about it, put this into perspective. If you have no filters, it means basically you have no filters and yet you are highly sensitive because this is a sensitive energetic space. You've got an individual who literally just soaks up everything from their environment. So there is no discernment. You're somebody who is taking on board all of the emotions and things that are going on around them, which would make it very, very difficult for them as an extreme sensitive. So because of that, you could find somebody who actually has a dire need to be able to protect themselves, but they can't tell you what is theirs and what isn't. Because of this level of transparency, sensitivity, and openness, it's like, where do I stop and the rest of the world begin? Because if somebody hasn't learned to be able to be centered within their own space. They can be thrown about by their environment very, very easily. So that's what this would actually be in its challenging position. So it's somebody who is absorbing like a sponge everything going on in the environment and from other people because they don't have those filters. Okay. So it could be somebody as a result of that who has been through an intensely difficult time. So they really do need a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding because they are highly sensitive individuals who have such incredible gifts to bring if they can actually work to center themselves and put in place methods and processes of natural discernment. So it could be quite a challenge um, to actually struggle with the issues of this bottle. And there could also be a great need for cleansing tears. So if you've been taking on board everybody else's baggage because of this particular bottle, you know, that cathartic releasing process that actually comes through tears and crying could be part and parcel of what they are asking for, what they are needing, in terms of getting rid of all of that stuff that is actually not theirs. So yeah, it could indicate a lot of difficulties and a lot of obstacles in life. One of the other words that tends to describe this is also fragmentation. It's somebody who is basically fragmented themselves because they don't have appropriate boundaries in place. They really, in the positive sense, they can experience themselves as an aspect of oneness, but in its challenging position, if they don't have that connection with the divine, they just really experience themselves connected with everything else around them and all the nonsense. So it's almost as if their sense of who they are becomes completely fragmented as a consequence of that. Does that make sense? Could be physically, there could be problems. Okay, you've got that. That's great. Physically, because of this crying issue too, we know that at a metaphysical level is that the sinuses and blocked sinuses represent blocked emotions and the need to cry and release all of that fluid. So you often find with this bottle, as you would with indigo, perhaps you would find sinus problems. Lack of energy also because of the color of it, and it links with water and water imbalances. You could find problems with the water balance in the body. So you could actually find problems with the bladder, with the kidneys, with all of the organs associated with water. Well, it's more than water removal, it's water balance. So things like cystitis and head colds. You want to know what color complements this one? Well, this is an interesting one, Ashwit, because pearl doesn't really have a complement. If we go back to the color wheel, you will actually see that the pearl sits in the middle because white as a color, or this pearl as a color, is actually a reflection of all of the colors. So within this space, we would need to home in on what is best going to support them in terms of a specific, accessing a specific frequency to enable them to deal with the oversensitivity of the pearl. So this is where doing a 3 bottle reading, if this comes up, you would need to look at what other colors have actually been chosen, because it could be any one of the other colors that's needed to complement it, because this basically reflects all frequencies. So you would need to home in. So what are the, if you find out what the key issues are that this individual is dealing with, you can intuitively then also perhaps select a color that's going to work more effectively for them. Does that help? Because of their level of connection with the divine, the potential for that connection, you would find that this individual, when they are in balance and expressing the positive, that they have the ability to almost make things manifest, make things happen in their life almost by magic. So it's also associated with, you know, sort of magic and miracles, wonderful opportunities, clarity and insight, so that they have the ability to see their path. Now, can you see how some of the wording here would also link in with some of the colors? Clarity and insight we're talking about, yellow. Yellow would actually support that. The key issue is that they're taking on people's moods and they actually need some kind of boundary protection, we could be looking at green because green talks about space and boundaries. If we're talking about somebody who has lost their sense of direction and doesn't know, what they want because their being is so cluttered with other people's ideas, then we could be looking at them needing some um, yellow or some blue. It could be blue to actually calm and soothe pent-up emotions. Could even be indigo. So you're going to find that you would flow in and out of the various colors associated with this. It's also somebody who, because of this lack of the lack of filters, has probably been extremely hurt in the past. And if that's the case, you may want to then look at releasing hurt. So you may look at pink. A soft pink is actually being something to help to soothe some of those old hurts and disappointments. So it's going to depend on where this person is at, what it is that they want to most accomplish at this moment in time, where they need to go, as to what color you choose to go with this particular one. So you ladies okay with that one? You will find a lot more about Pearl on page 45 and 46 in your book. You're okay with it? Good, wonderful. So let's have a look at the next color. So close your eyes. We've done green. We did green last week, so I'm not going to go through that one again. So I'd like you to just close your eyes and allow yourself to breathe and just feel your body resonating with all of the wisdom and the information of that beautiful pearl light. Just feel that entering your cells and know that you understand and can access the wisdom within that color, within those frequencies. And just for this moment, I'd like you to put yourself into a diamond. That's an octahedral, sacred geometric form. Create the diamond around you. For the diamond has prism-like facets, and in its center is a crystalline, clear column of light that runs down your spine, that represents your supreme divine connection. And all of the facets of your diamond then reflect out all of the colors of the rainbow. Just for this moment, you experience the beauty and the connection and the enormity and the power and potential of that pearl light as it manifests every single color in the spectrum through your diamond. Just feel yourself, how your body adjusts to being in this space, in this energy. And from above your head now, there is a stream of golden light that emanates from what is known as the soul star energy center above your head. And this is your sacred self. And allow it to flow down the core of your diamond, infusing your diamond space with its warmth, and just feel the essence of gold within your body. As you open your eyes and gaze upon the color, and allow your optic nerves to transmit the information about that frequency into your brain and into your body. And what are the first associations that you find emerges from within you with this color? Ah, nice one. Yes, warmth, wholeness, and balance. Yes, it is. There's something so supremely warm about the gold. It's a color that I've just started working with. Um, Again, I've been doing a lot of red since the beginning of the year, and of course with the move, and I've just gone into gold, which is interesting. Just really, really drawn to working with this. So I'm using the oil on myself. So Ashwit, what do we got there? It's very supportive color, actually. So what else might you connect with that then, Cherry? So Ashwit's busy typing there. Work with EMF, and doing light gold to balance. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, gold is a wonderful, wonderful, soothing, integrating, balancing color. Frequency, powerful. It's interesting that you work with EMF, Ashwit, because there's a link with EMF and the diamond in a very powerful way. So you've also got, oh yes, I like that. It is, it's richness and supportive. Very much so. As where does it govern? If we look physically on the body, we find gold is a combination of orange and yellow and red. Let's just go back to the color wheel. So orange and yellow. So we've actually got 2 parts yellow and 1 part red in it. So there's a strong yellow component. So if we look at it in relation to the yellow, we would have issues or the gifts of confidence, upliftment, positivity, and all of the rest of it. And then along with the red component in there, we would find a vitality and an energy. Physically in the body, it sits at about the level of the navel, because you've got the orange at the sacral center and you've got the yellow in the solar plexus, and between the two you've actually got the navel. So combining orange from the sacral and the yellow from the solar plexus, you get to the area of about the navel. So there's a true spiritual richness that is evident with this one. And it's really quite interesting because if we look externally at trends, social trends, for instance, we actually find that in some of the more deprived areas, or where people have come from deprived backgrounds, what is the one thing that these people do when they have the means? They go and they buy bling. Lots of gold. And if they can suddenly afford it, if you've got a rags to riches story, they will often overdo it with the heavy real gold. So because they have not been able to find their richness and wealth, then it becomes manifest in an outward show of that by buying and wearing gold. And that's all it is, as within, so without. So those who wear loads and loads of bling jewelry in the golden color are sort of really trying to find and to capture. It's very interesting, yeah, trying to capture that essence within them because they're missing it, they're lacking it, and they don't have the confidence in themselves. And very often they've come from that deprived background and where they've been lacking in that connection. It's quite fascinating to watch some of the social things, the fashion trends and things like that. So yes, sort of that richness. So in its positive sense, there is a deep spiritual connection with it. There is a deep sense of contentment and peace that goes with this. Think about the Buddhists as well, sort of what is the color that the Buddhists wear? It's gold and magenta. And both are it's spirituality brought down to earth, and the gold actually represents the attainment of that spiritual richness. So without the need for the external trappings. So their robes are that golden color. So it's peace and contentment. It's somebody who knows who they are from the bigger perspective and why they're here. So they've come to grips with the fact that they have a purpose in life that goes beyond the physical body. So they have, a very powerful idea of the fact that they are a spiritual being having a human experience and are very comfortable with that. There's a deep understanding that all of life's difficulties and things that they may have been through um, all serve a purpose in terms of growth and in a richness of spirit, a richness of presence through being able to embody more of their spiritual self, so that all of their trials and tribulations have actually strengthened their inner core, if you like. So it's strengthened their inner core and their spiritual beingness in the world. So it's somebody with that optimism as well who is able to find the gifts in even very challenging circumstances and situations. So there's also an innate wisdom. The gold is the richness within. So it is a rich well of wisdom that the individual is powerfully and strongly connected with. So rather than it being external wisdom, there is an internal wisdom and knowingness. Tapping in and acknowledging personal power. So it is sort of life being lived to the full as well, sort of very powerfully lived in many different ways. It doesn't mean that somebody has sort of got to the point where they don't have challenges in their life. They're just able to experience the fullness of all the experiences that life brings with the understanding of the gifts that those experiences bring them. So bearing in mind that those are the real positive qualities, then what do you think some of the negative or challenging aspects or qualities would be? What would be the opposite of all of that? Closed. Nice one. Closed, unbalanced. Yes, unbalanced, absolutely. Shy. Yes. Yeah. Lacking confidence again. Somebody who's very almost timid. Close themselves off from the external world. Again, you've got those yellow identity issues that could filter through. Auschwitz, somebody that cannot listen to the yes, absolutely. Somebody who's just they're so disconnected from that, they can't connect with those inner impulses. They can't connect with that intuitive self. They don't have the confidence to let go and do that. So they really have a need for a great need, similar to the clear in a sense, for protection. Also, somebody who tends to, because they don't have the confidence, there's a lot of procrastination with gold. It's somebody who often puts things off for another day. I will do that when. I will do that when I have gained XYZ. So it's the same as, when I have a whole lot of money, then I will do X, Y, Z. So somebody who's very fearful about taking steps and making changes in their life, it's always put off until something better comes along. That richness is also, I'm waiting for something better. Okay, but there's an aspect of stuckness and fear that goes along with that. When I win the lottery, then I can do this. And it becomes, in its positive sense, a need to acknowledge that all of the resources you could possibly need are within you, and that there's more than one way in order to be able to manifest or achieve or to do the kind of things that we actually want to do in life, or that form part of our purpose. It's somebody who actually needs to discover their wings and needs to come into a space of self-acceptance. There's a very, very strong aspect of self-acceptance here. And you can almost see that, to go back to the analogy of the blingy jewelry stuff. You often find that those who do that struggle to be able to accept themselves. They might put on a lot of false bravado and have lots to say. But there is a deep level of inferiority and insecurity around them. Yeah, their ego controls their behavior, absolutely, rather than it being the other way around. So very often there's not even an acknowledgement that there is a spiritual component to who they are. Um, so there's also an aspect or element of addictive behavior in here. Remember, going back to the orange, that those addictive behaviors often show up in the orange. So it's kind of like trying to fill the hole, but that hole can never be filled, because the hole that they are looking to fill is really that need to bring their spirit through from within them, that nothing outside of them is ever going to fill that gap or fill that hole. All of that controls their behavior. So you do find a lot of addictive behavior. You do also find, as in with the yellow, you get a lot of fear and anxiety that prevents movement. With the gold, you tend to find that a lot of the behaviors there are phobias, obsessive compulsive stuff, irrational fears and phobias about things, which has caused certain fragmentation or splintering off of their soul essence, and that could be coming through from past lives. If they've been through something exceptionally traumatic in a past life that was associated with them being in that soul space, they would fragment off that aspect of themselves, so they would go through this lifetime with fears and phobias around those old patterns and situations that they can't explain, but also trying to fill a hole for a missing part of themselves, when that sort of perhaps needs some shamanic, some other dimensional help in terms of recovering parts of themselves that have become splintered. So it's a very, very in color, and sort of very much inferiority complexes and insecurities that go around this. But essentially what they're doing is it's somebody who is looking for themselves. They're looking to find their wings, to unfold their wings, to find the freedom that actually comes from an expanded sense of self, of their real self, rather than their false self, the ego, and those controls. So it's very, very interesting. Yeah, I like that, because I'm also moving into a situation, or almost feel as if I've been freed up in some sense from the previous circumstance that I was in, that the gold is actually supporting this new level of freedom in terms of the space that I am moving into. So it's really interesting that I was drawn very, very much to working with gold at this moment rather than working with green, because I feel pretty comfortable about moving into the new space. So what the gold is fueling is a new level of freedom, what the gold is actually feeding. So these colors work at so many different levels, and as I said to you before, we weave in and out of the rainbow. It's not like we work with them once and hey ho, there, we've done it. We'll work with one color, then we'll go and work with another color, and we come back and we work with something else, and we just keep working at finer and finer and finer levels as we refine our own essence and our own beingness. So you also find that this impacts things like the pancreas and the bladder, the liver, the kidneys, um, bowels. So you find a lot of digestive system stuff. So it's all about digestion and elimination of all of life's experiences. Whereas living totally from the ego, we actually struggle to, if you like, digest those experiences appropriately. So it all actually goes along with the entire digestive system. Very much a neediness in a negative sense, stress and irrational fears, profound opportunity for enlightenment. So if you want to look at the gifts here, there is a profound opportunity for upliftment and enlightenment. I saw you typing there, Cherry. Reassurance. Yes, that's beautiful. Gold it's a very reassuring, supportive color. Absolutely. So that is what it would actually bring to them. So if they were wanting to work with it, that's one of the gifts that it would bring. And would help to begin or to strengthen their connection with their divine higher self. Reassurance. Reassurance, Oshrit, is just it's confirmation. To be reassured is to actually receive some kind of confirmation, and supportive. What's the word? Just feeling more confident about certain life decisions, directions, choices. So gold actually helps you to feel more confident about those choices, things that may actually be happening in your life. Does that make sense? It's almost like a confirmation, a validation. That's what reassurance is. Okay, it's confirmation. Okay. Any more comments, questions on that one, ladies? I take it that that means no. Okay. So, if that's okay and you're ready to move on to the next color, then close your eyes. We've got one more. And go back to your breathing as you allow that golden essence from within you to pump its golden reassurance, higher essence through your body. Let yourself feel that validation for your path, your purpose, your presence, your beingness. Powerful, powerful confirmation of the spiritual nature of who you are. Just feel it flowing through your veins, your nerves, and your body. And then allow it to dissipate. And you become once more just a transparent diamond. And now, as you breathe, that transparency begins to manifest or extract the frequency of the deepest, darkest velvet indigo. into your space. And just allow your body to connect with this frequency. Allow yourself to feel its character, its nature, the information that it brings you. And when you are ready, take a deep breath in and allow your eyes to gaze upon the color and imprint your optic nerves. And then what are the first associations that you have with the indigo? Third eye. Oh, yes. Absolutely. Depth. Absolutely. What else do you get with that one? Courage. Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. Fluid movement, like rocking a baby. Ooh, isn't that wonderful? So it is that sense of being cocooned within a space, being held, being comforted, almost feeling safe within that space. And yet there is a gentle flow and a gentle movement. And it's the courage that comes from knowing that you are in a safe space. And indigo to me is just something, it's a really, really powerful color. I love all of them, and I always say, well, I love this one, I love that one. I just love them all, really. But indigo, to me, the key words that actually describe indigo, and if you look at it, you can see it's mystery and magic. It's the gateway into the mysteries. It's like the backdrop of the night sky. And studded on that night sky are all of these brilliant, sparkling jewels that you can see. And you can see them because you've gone into that darkness. So it's the depths and the darkness within. And it reminds us that there within those depths are the jewels, the golden jewels that we will actually find. And if you have a look on the color wheel, and that's what's just so beautiful, is gold. Gold sits opposite indigo. So it's against depths of our inner beingness in the backdrop that we access and harness the jewel-like gold of our highest essence, of that knowledge, of that wisdom. But we've got to go into the darkness in order very often to be able to see it, to find it. You've got to go within. So it is very much a withdrawal, sort of again, it's that blue with a little bit of red. So it's before you kind of get up to the violet, but it deepens that inner withdrawal. So there is that internalization and cocooning that goes along with this. And that is often necessary in order to take us within so that we can begin to access the golden nuggets to fuel the transformation. Okay, the transformation that actually comes with violet. So it's very it's a very peaceful color. It's a very soothing color. It's a great color along with violet to use at night. And I think, I'm not sure what color the valerian flower is, but certainly valerian links in with indigo. So it's very, very soothing, helps you to sleep. So it's generally somebody, because of the link with the third eye, this is representative of a high degree of intuition, an open third eye potential, clairvoyance, clairaudience. Clairsentience is probably it's more bodily related and more kinesthetic. So this is more the clairaudience and clairvoyance, sort of the ability to connect with your inner seeing and your inner hearing. That actually goes along with that. It's a high degree of trust. So you've learned to listen, to connect with those depths, to connect with those impulses that arise from within that space, the universal backdrop. And you've learned to trust it. So it's a high level of trust. So you connect and you trust with all of those abilities and perceptions. So it's a very, very fine level of perception, the ability to see through the darkness beyond the ordinary. When you can see into the darkness, you begin to see what others can't, because most people are afraid to be going there. So it's being able to see beyond the ordinary. Other people also feel that they can really trust you because there is that sense of holding, as you said, that fluidness, movement, like rocking a baby. You know, that translates and extends itself into an environment where people feel that they can come and talk to you about anything, you know, where they know that if they do that, it will actually be held within. So they pick up on that aspect of trust that comes along with this deep indigo. So there is a warmth that is actually in there because there's some red within the color. So while it is a very cool and soothing color, there is actually a warmth that is felt as a consequence of the levels of trust and that little bit of red that is actually mixed in with the indigo. Um, Non-judgmentalism, very discerning, ability to be analytical. So it's somebody who is able to not just be perceptive. You know, certain perceptions can enable you to communicate to others in such a way that you can highlight things that they can't see. So there is that aspect of perceptibility that supports others, you know, in things like counseling and discussion and intimate relationships. But there is also the ability to analyze with the mind and to use the analytical mental faculties in order to work through problems. So you're beginning to have quite a powerful brain balanced process going on here. And of course, the third eye sits bang in the middle of both hemispheres of the brain, so you are able to actually move between the both. So somebody who also does have, you know, very sharp mind, and very sharp focus. Focus is actually a word that goes with indigo. So that's really all on the positive side. So having mentioned that, what do you think some of the challenging issues might be? Struggling with emotions and dealing, yeah. So you start getting into the violet territory as well. So you've got somebody who is very adept at working mentally, but not really able to connect with their emotional side very well. So they don't deal with life, you know, necessarily always appropriately. Not be in the body and not grounding, yes. So you're starting to look at some of the head stuff, mental stuff, similar stuff, not dealing with the emotional body. So you start retreating from the emotional body, and from your association with the physical. Somebody who starts living in a bit of a fantasy world, you know, here you've got the magic and mystery of the indigo, so you start getting the imaginative building in here, coming in here, and the creation of fantasy. So that ability to go into the depths of the indigo means you can come out unconnected, absolutely. Unconnected with self and feel safe in their head. Yes, yes, very much so. So you can see all of this. So if you ever get stuck with any of the colors, just locate for yourself one or two keywords that are either on the positive or the negative, and those will be a trigger for unlocking the rest of the information within you, because you ladies have this. You absolutely understand it. So it's unconnected with self. It's withdrawal. You've got that withdrawal. So you start looking at depression again. So you've got, and insomnia, not being able to sleep properly. Somebody who is afraid of going into the darkness. It's very, very interesting, because I think I may have mentioned this to you. Is indigo was one of my missing name colors. It was either that, or it was a very prominent color, which has been a challenge for me all my life until I began to wake up to the spiritual aspect of who I was. And my whole life, literally, I was physically afraid of the dark. And the dark is connected with the indigo. It's that depth of the darkness. It was that fear of going into the darkness within. You know, and that's very much a karmic thing. It's a past life thing. It's all of the stuff that was brought through with me. But right up until my 30s, I was afraid of the dark. And indigo has been one of my challenges throughout life. Now that I've sort of done all of this work so far, I love connecting with it. I love going into that space. It's just amazing, because I love the jewels that I come out with when I go in there. So there is this, it could physically manifest as a fear of the dark, a fear of the unknown. That's what it is. It's a fear of the unknown because of this connection with magic and mystery, because indigo is the home and the place of what is not known. And we go in there in order to find out, in order to be able to know. So there's very, very much a fear of the unknown that comes in there. There's a deep lack of trust, actually, in life. It's an ability, a lack of an ability to feel supported in life. So while you are unconnected with self, you actually feel unconnected with life, and you are unable to actually feel supported. So there's a complete lack of trust in any intuitive impulses because of difficult circumstances. So there is an innate sensitivity again that goes along with indigo because of this clairvoyant, clairaudient, and potential clairsentient ability, that it's probably somebody who was faced with an onslaught of all of this information that at a very young age they were more than likely traumatized by, because they actually had nobody who could explain and guide them through this territory. So where that actually happens to them at a very young age, it can actually be almost traumatizing, which is where gold is a wonderful color for balancing, because gold with the orange in it helps us to overcome those irrational fears and phobias, like an irrational fear of the dark, or the traumas, by bringing in the wisdom and the gold. So it's somebody who actually struggles to have fun, because they can actually also be too serious about life with the indigo. uh, Struggles to have fun. They've also withdrawn from social circumstances and social environment, need to heal the heart, need to cry, actually struggling with potential depression. Let's see you coming up there, Cherry, with something. Loner, yes. Isolated, lovely word. Yeah, loner. Somebody who tends to be a loner, because they freeze people out. Indigo can be frozen emotions. So isolation, if you look at a different spelling of it, you get I-C-E, ice, olation. So you become quite icy and aloof. So you can be perceived as cold. So you lacking, or you miss the warmth that is actually available within the indigo. So you need to realize the fullness of this particular frequency. So you freeze people out. You can be perceived as being cold. As well, yeah, so somebody who's a loner, somebody who prefers to retreat into their fantasy worlds and, sort of be on their own. So they could be very, very bright people. This is where you sometimes find, I think, some of your intellectual eccentrics, probably with this because they live their whole life in their head, but they've got no idea of how to connect with others. Very, very strong, sort of scientific and analytical brains, incredible people, geniuses, but inability to interact socially, completely. So very powerful, quick minds. This is where the crying bit comes in. You find sinus problems manifesting physically with indigo. Uh, Sinus problems, headaches, insomnia. So those would be your main physical things. Problems with the eyes. Sometimes problems with the ears that you may actually find associated with this too. Things like grinding, problems sleeping, snoring. Snoring is another one. So sleep disturbances, um, and dreaming. Sometimes indigo individuals as well can have very, very vivid and startling dreams. And that's because there is a great deal of activity around the third eye and the various hemispheres of the brain that's being processed while they sleep. And there is this conscious recall. So there's a heck of a lot that goes in there. So there is an inherent fear of them looking into their own darkness in order to retrieve the jewels of the soul. And that's really what indigo needs, is a trust enough to surrender and let go, to be able to connect with their soul essence, to be able to almost fall into that pit so that they can find that the landing is actually quite soft at the end of the day. It's not as hard as what they thought it was going to be. Okay, great need to possibly do meditation, which actually helps to calm the mind, and it also helps to train the brain. We've talked about Dr. Jules' brain balancing program, which is absolutely wonderful for the indigos because it's a meditative experience, and it helps them to focus rather than scatter their mental energies. So, how do you ladies feel about that one? I always think whenever I look at this, magic and mystery and deep dark skies. And that's when you see, okay, sky, jewels, sort of going into the darkness to find it. Are you okay with this, Ashrit? Was that talking a bit quickly for you? You can review it at least anyway. I've got the recording. Yeah, okay, that's fine. You can review it. And of course, all of the indigo information is on page 31 and 32, pages 31 and 32 in your workbooks. So you can actually go and review it. You've got all the information in your workbook and within you, as we've spoken before. So finally, for this evening, I'm just going to take you through the structure of a 9-bottle reading, and then your homework for this week, I'm going to send you a homework sheet with a different 9-bottle. I'm not sure if it's a different one or the same one, actually. 9-bottle reading for you to work through yourself, see how you go, and we'll do a review of it next week. So let's have a look at how you might expand on the information that you can get from a simple 3-bottle reading. So at the back of your workbook, you get provided with this 9-space grid, which provides you a framework for a 9-bottle reading. So it gives you more expanded information. So essentially what you would do is you would get somebody to, as with the 3-bottle reading, you do 1 bottle at a time. And if you don't have 9 bottles, you get them to choose a bottle, write the color in that block, or color it in with a pencil, and then put the color bottle back and say, okay, now choose your next one. And you would effectively then fill in like one at a time. So you would do the top 3, and then you would do the next 3, and then you would do the bottom 3 on a 9-bottle grid. So you just need to have a record of the colors that go into, or that somebody chooses to go into each one of the blocks. So you will actually see that at the bottom here, you've got the fundamental or foundation 3-bottle reading, which is the biggest issue, the pathway, and the potential. So further up in the grid, what you've got is you've got information that really expands on this. So let's just say the biggest issue here we see is green. What you would find is to expand on that issue, find physical, emotional, and mental nuances, subtleties of things that that individual is going through represented by different colors. So they will give you nuances and shades of, um, what's the word? It would give you a focus for each one of those levels, if you like. So at the physical level, the emotional level, the mental level. So if their biggest issue is green, let's say for instance, they would be sitting there dealing with aspects of space, relationship, boundaries, needs for change, okay? Need to change their space, change of job, change of home, whatever it might be. All of those things. Very interesting, by the way, Cherry. Didn't you choose the lime green in the beginning? The olive green? That sort of combination between green and yellow? You did. Yeah, and you've just changed job and you've got a new job. So we've got the green elements and aspects coming in there. So it's the green of change and the yellow of confidence within that space, and female leadership, which is supporting you through the shift. So we've got that issue of green with all of the changes being their biggest issue. So in terms of that, what might we be finding at the physical level? Well, at the physical level, it means that there's more than likely, very interesting, because you've got a complement between the red and the green anyway. They both link with the heart, with pumping blood around the body, with the physical manifestation of change. So the ability to move with change. So physically, that individual, the biggest issue is they know they need to change, but physically they're probably worn out, or they could have blood problems or blood pressure problems. Could be feeling, they could have muscular problems in their leg, because red actually deals with the legs, with blood flow or blood supply to their legs, which is probably resulting in them feeling as if they don't have the energy, or they feel stuck in, so they don't have the physical means or ability to be able to make whatever changes are necessary. Okay? Then at the emotional level, you would find that now associated with this need to bring in change, that the coral is actually saying, well, emotionally, what does that say, ladies? Emotionally, if coral is in the emotional space, what would that say to you? Okay. Well, what I would say here is that it's confirmation of the need to change. But what you probably find is coral emotionally is that they feel as if they've been put on by everybody. They're probably feeling as if they've been hard done by, as if they're a bit of a doormat that everybody uses them. And at the same time, there's a bit of a fear of standing up for themselves. Part of their need to change their space is going to be found in the ability, developing the ability to say no. So you've got somebody here who has a desperate need to want to change, but they're feeling a total lack of confidence about putting those boundaries in place and being able to say no to people. There's a fear of what others would think if they say no, because they're always there to help others out. Okay, so because of this emotional tendency to need to do for others, it makes it more difficult for them to go through and to bring about the changes that are necessary, which are going to benefit them. Okay? Does that make sense? So somebody who's been a doormat, very, very sensitive. So they're very sensitive to what other people say, think, feel, and they really just want to sort of give their all. But they're exhausting themselves physically by doing this. And it's making it very, very difficult for this change. It's almost like this person has become their own worst enemy. And at the mental level, where they've got to is because of this giving, giving, giving out to others, and the physical exhaustion, where you've got gold at the mental level represented here, that is actually saying that individual is confused, totally out of touch with who they are. So there is a whole level of mental clutter and confusion. It's like they can't see through the mental clutter in order to be able to expand their perspective and see clearly. So this is giving you a whole lot more insight about the issue that they are dealing with, and you can expand on all these. So then what you can do is you can go up here and you can kind of say, oh no, this is interesting because you've got gold here at the mental level. But now you've got three new blocks which say that this is what has happened in the past, this is where they're at the present, and this is the future that they are going to create in terms of what they're dealing with at the moment. This is the potential outcome, and the potential outcome is about transformation. The pathway is red, so the pathway through is physical energy. It's the first level of support that they need in terms of being able to bring about and resolve this issue. But where they've come from in the past, they've probably been very much hurt, um, a great feeling, a great deal of sensitivity and a lack of confidence. So gold is also a lack of confidence. But where this comes in very useful is that if this manifests in the past, what you need to find out is what they've been through, because gold in that position would say, or any color in that position would say, you have been through certain aspects of this before. And because it's in the past, it means that you have realized some of the gifts in that. So especially with it being gold, you'd be able to say to them, look, you've been through circumstances like this where you've experienced that confusion, and you have been able to resolve it so that you can move into a different space, because that's in the past. Therefore, if you did it then, you can do it now because you've realized some of the gifts in challenging circumstances before. So you can almost use that as a validation for the individual of the fact that they have realized certain inner gifts through life challenges previously. Does that make sense? So at some level, they have connected with a part of themselves that they have forgotten about, but they have already done this. So, and what's happened at the moment is where they are at the moment is they need to be able to, in respect of their biggest issue, what's the key word that goes along with blue, is they have a need for inner peace. So they have a need for inner peace and energy. So need for inner peace, which then allows them to make the necessary decisions, and one in a time, which is going to help them to make their space, their direction more beneficial, if that makes sense. So it's peace and trust and calm. So they're really looking for some peace in their lives. And if you've got this at the emotional level, you've more than likely got somebody who's running around all of the time doing whatever they can for others, that there is no peace within them because they haven't made the space or the time to be able to experience that. So all the running around, they lose energy, and their head is cluttered, so it's therefore confused. Though at present, in order to be able to resolve that issue, they actually need some peace and calm. But if they can find this and work with this, and then make one small change at a time, they will actually begin to fuel the energy of change. It becomes almost a recycling process. That the calmer they are, and then the more changes they make, the more confidence and the more energy they have to make more changes, that their future potential and outcome is then in inner transformation, a greater level of connectivity with their highest self, with their divine self, with a divine pattern and a divine flow in life, and the ability to drop their masks and experience emotional freedom. Because at the emotional level, coral is challenging. And that is not freedom because it's bound by what everybody else wants. It's running around and serving other people's needs. So their potential future outcome is transformation and emotional freedom and a letting down of the walls so that they can be who they were born to be. So if you actually have a look at that as an overall grid, there's 9 bottles in there. What might you recommend to them as a color or one or more colors to take away and work with? I would never give them more than 2 generally. But if there were 1 or 2 colors, what would you actually give them to take away and work with? Just taking a look at that intuitively. What might you give them to work with? Ashwat blue, nice one, yeah? Blue. So if you look at that, what is going to serve them the most? And cherry, you would do gold. And then green. Blue and then green. Okay? That's an interesting one. Do you know what I would do? Let me show you. And this is where you really start looking at it. That's really good. And you can take it one step further. If you look here, if you go blue and then green, if you combine blue with green, you've got turquoise. So you start the patterns. Isn't this beautiful? So if you give them turquoise, you actually start breaking down the barriers. So you could, in fact, give them turquoise and gold, because gold has some red in it. So you've got some of the energy, but you've also got the safety and the confidence in gold to be able to allow down the barriers in order to start bringing in some of their future potential. And you've got the energy aspect within gold, you've the confidence aspect within gold to put up boundaries and to start saying no. And you've, like I say, you start letting down the barriers to allow more of their true self to shine. And because they've been through this gold cycle before, okay, then gold will is something that they would feel comfortable and recognize with. So you're going to support them in starting to clear their mental clutter so that they can then resolve and come to terms with all of the rest of the shifts and the changes that they need to make. But it's a very, very intuitive process. There's no hard and fast rule in terms of saying to people and suggesting you give them this block or that block or the next one. But how does that feel for you? It just gives you an expanded picture. And you can see actually how the different colors and things would actually fit together, giving you much more of a profound profile. Takes a while to get used to the 9 bottle reading, and I have to say that there's not a lot of people who would use this because you can get a lot of information just from the 3 bottles. However, it can be very, very useful given certain circumstances to want to expand on the information using this format. How does that feel for you, ladies? I'm going to give you a different 9 bottle reading for your homework. Good. And you'll obviously have the video, the recording to review, so you can go back and listen to it again. Exciting. Ah, that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Okay, ladies, so there we go. We're at the end of our session. It's 9:30, and I know it's quite late for you, Ashrit, and Cherry, you've got kids to sort out and what have you. So there we go. That was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing in the session again. Let me finish the recording, and I look forward to connecting for our final class with you next week.